Hey, HR friends, welcome back. We're in the 4-4 emotional 6.5 day sequence. We're going to talk about day one. Now, because we're starting a new emotional sequence, we're going to take a little extra time here to look at the entire sequence before we specifically talk about day one. And then this way, you can always come back to this video and reference it. And then in the other forecast, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 6.5, we'll just do an abbreviated forecast because then we don't have to repeat this again and again for you. Now, if you didn't realize this, we broke the mathematics that explain our sentient space-time experience, our existence, okay? We exist because of a pattern. And this pattern not only allows us to exist, but it animates us and it teaches us. You see, this pattern is all about teaching us how to balance our choice. Now, it's not quite that simple. It complicates this and it makes it difficult for us. And let me explain what that means. So, this pattern does a couple different things. One, it tests us on our choices, but two, it's constantly challenging us and it's challenging us with electromagnetic change in energy. Why is that important? Well, because of our design. You see, every sentient being is designed to be defensive, and they have an unconscious system of defensive control called the fight or flight mechanism. Now, when we broke this mathematical pattern, it allowed us to map out this electromagnetic fluctuation. And this fluctuation, when it elevates, it actually activates our defensive design. So this sentient space-time reality is literally predetermined. It's a predetermined pattern that agitates us. And because we're designed to be defensive and because it's agitating all of us, what it's doing is it's manipulating all of us. And it's super important you understand that you're being manipulated because, well, that's what's causing you all your stress, and it's what's causing you to age. And that stress is accumulating to cause future states of disease. And again, like I said, this pattern is predetermined. So every individual has to make their way through this pattern, but how they react to this pattern is very different from individual to individual. And now you're starting to see why we all experience different stages of aging and different parts of our body having more problems than others. Now, we're going to explain how that works when we get down to the objective. But right now, we're really trying to help you understand why these graphs are so important and why you want to pay attention to them. Now, in day one here, you can see, and the number that we reference often is 4. If this pattern gets above a 4 and holds above a 4, it's really going to activate our defensive design. And day one is probably one of the more active days. You can see that we get to this level 4 in the combined third person specifically. Third person agitations, these are bigger picture things. It's what individuals invest in. First person agitation, that's simple too. Those are all the people that you see on a day to day basis, and sometimes they get under your skin. When this pattern goes up, it's going to be easy to be frustrated with people. When this pattern goes up, it's going to be easy to be frustrated with the big picture and it not going the way you wanted it to. But I'm just saying, it's going to elevate our sensitivity to our emotions, and it's also going to elevate our irritability when this pattern rises. So here's the great news. The 4-4 is like nothing compared to what we've been going through. So the 4-5 that we were just in, that was at a 4 and holding above a 4 for almost the entire 6.5 day sequence. So this is welcome to have something that's only at a 4 and most everything is staying below it. Now, you can look that there's some elevation right here. You see how we're not at level 0 starting out with this purple one or the third person, but we are at level 0 here starting out at first person. This has to do with an emotional rhythm that's flipping polarity. And it's going to go through this first 24-hour segment. So always, when there's a strong elevation like this happening, even though we're barely getting to 4, is this going to bother people? Yeah, for sure it is. And because we're switching into a new emotional sequence, it always takes at least the first 24 hours just to get acclimated to this. What's happening here from the unseen electromagnetic standpoint, it's like the tide is reversed, and our body's going to have to get used to the tide going the other direction. And it's like jet lag. So it takes a little bit of time, and then we're going to have this agitation as well. Now, again, it's nothing like the transitions that we've been making. That should be relatively simple when you compare them. Does that mean that you don't have to pay attention and that you have to make sure you're not overreacting or being manipulated by this pattern? No, you don't ever want to be manipulated by this pattern. If you let this pattern manipulate you, literally you're accelerating aging and you're going to get diseases you don't want. That's what happens, okay? So, we're trying to help you understand how to overcome this pattern. But why? Why do we want to overcome this pattern? Well, to understand that, we're actually going to look down here at what we've done to simplify how this works. You see, our existence is made possible by frequency. We're nothing but frequencies, and these frequencies are interconnected and they create everything, including our bodies. And what we've done here is we've connected quadrants of the body to the frequencies that make our existence possible and govern our experiences. Now, the frequencies up here, they're challenging us, they're testing us. The frequencies down here, well, they're judging us. That's a good way to say that. So what's happening is this. If you get defensive and you act negative, so you run away from your problems, which keeps your stress alive, or you stand up and fight for it and you make more stress, well, what happens is when you get down to this section, then you're punished for that. Okay? So the frequencies up here challenge you. The frequencies right here, they are governing you. And this is how this works. So, what you can't let your defensive design do is stop you from getting along with any member of our team. You see, we're all born into teams, the same team. We're all part of a family. Every single person that exists is either a son or a daughter, which means they had a mother or a father. And it's already tough enough. Think about this. We're defensive in nature, so it's hard for us to get along with our own family members, let alone all the other families we coexist with. Well, that's the challenge. Our defensive design shouldn't stop us from getting along, and it has been. Now, the more this pattern up here challenges you, and the more this pattern wins and manipulates you, the harder it is for you to come together and work out your differences. Now, if you continue to not get along with teammates, this is what's going to happen. The quadrants of your body that are connected to these relationships will deteriorate and age faster. So, for example, if you have problems with getting along with males, whether they're mature males or whether they're younger males, okay, you're going to have problems with the right sides of your body. That's how that works. Same thing with females. If you're having problems with females more than males, you're going to have problems with the left side of your body. If you're having problems mostly with getting along with maturing females, you're going to have left upper quadrant problems. That's how that works. Okay. Now, what's on this other side is the perspectives of a balanced society. And so the teammates, our team members, which is everybody, we're all part of the same team. We're all supposed to be balancing our routines and contributing every day to make sure that every family, every individual, every nation, and our conjoined world is going to be equal and balanced. What does that mean? It means this. It shouldn't matter what nation you're born into. It shouldn't matter what family you're born into. We're all going to have a great experience because we've all invested to make sure that everyone's taken care of. And no matter where they're born and when they're born, it's going to be just as good for them as it will be for everybody else they share that place with. Now, we haven't created that. In fact, if you're born in different nations now, you'll have completely different experiences because we've invested in defensive strategies. Certain nations think they're better than other nations, or certain families think they're better than other families, or certain individuals think they're better than other individuals. That's just your defensive design talking. In truth, none of us are more important than anybody else, and in truth, all of our families are equal and need to be treated that way. So, this is what happens if you don't do that. What happens is you get punished. Now, please understand, these frequencies aren't asking, they're telling. And what they're telling you is how you're doing through biofeedback. So if you allow your defensive design to convince you that you don't have to get along with family members or with your teammates, and remember, we're all part of the same family. So if you discriminate or you don't treat people respectfully and you don't help them work out their stress and you don't think you have to communicate with them, and most importantly, you got to talk with them about the team objective, which is balancing routine. Now, if you're not doing those things, then you're out of frequency and your body's going to take damage. You see, if your choices are unbalanced, your body pays for that. And the same thing over here at the routine side of it. Not only are we supposed to get along with our teammates, but we're supposed to be encouraging them, but also making sure that we ourselves are balancing our routine So what we contribute to, what we invest in, what it's going to lead to is a better future environment and a better future society for all the families that are going to come after us, right? That's how this works. That's how you pass this. That's how you get through this sentient space-time construct. If you don't do that, what happens is these frequencies basically destroy your body, they age you faster, and they create unpleasant states. And then if you die before you figure out how to balance, you just come back and you do this some more. You see, this reality we exist in is cyclical and it's never ending. And if you pass this, you still exist too, but you get out of this negative feedback loop. You see on our website, we disclose how this works, and it's important for you to see that there's two ways you can exist. You can learn in a negative feedback loop and be tortured. That's what we're in. Or you can learn in a positive feedback loop and you can be pampered. That's what we're trying to help you get to, okay? Now, to get out of this negative feedback loop and get into that positive feedback loop, you just gotta commit to your team and you just gotta balance your routines and you gotta be willing to do that until the day you die. Now, prove it to you, we can. Not only can we show you the math, but because we're in a sentient space-time construct. This construct is designed to make you feel. And because we know the patterns and we've mapped out the patterns, we know what you're going to feel and where you're going to feel it before it even happens. Now, what we do on these 24-hour graphs is we really zoom in the electromagnetics and we synchronize the hours of the day so that you know when these peaks are going to happen and where the elevations are and where it's going to subside. We want you to have that information because this pattern is manipulating you, knowing the time of the day that you're going to be manipulated and being prepared for it. Super important. Now, we have all 24 time zone offsets, which means we have all the times that you could need. So, what you do is you'd find your offset down here. Once you have the proper offset, this holds for 10 seconds. You screenshot it. This is for people that don't have good internet. If you've got great internet, go to our homepage, healthreconnected.com. There's a live feed there. You hit play, a time bar comes up, and it shows you exactly where we are within the sequence. Now, we want you to open this up as often as you feel defensive, or when you're starting to get sensitive, or when you see the people around you starting to get defensive. And you're going to soon realize that this pattern is manipulating you and them and all of your conflict and all of your arguments and all the people you thought you had beef with. Well, turns out this pattern's been tricking you into thinking that. And that's super important because if you allow this pattern to guide your actions, it is literally only hurting you and the people around you. So that's the first way we prove this to you. Okay. Now, day one, we're going to talk about these electromagnetics quick. You can see what we were talking about. So there's going to be a little jump up here in the first 12 hours, and that's mostly coming from third person perspective. Now, in the middle of the sequence, at the end of the first 12 hours and the beginning of the next 12-hour period, you can see there's elevation at both third and first person. So this is probably going to be the toughest time because you're going to be agitated from two different levels and they're going to come together and aggregate and we get up to that sixth level and this holds for a good few hours here. Plus, don't forget what I said about when we change out and we start going in a different direction in that metaphorical tide. Definitely going to be a little difficult. That's the other thing you're going to notice when we do these transitions. It'll wear you out. It's like your body's not used to it. It feels like your energy's drained. It could be the day where you're just like, why am I dragging? This is also going to help you confirm that we're in a reality where we are being manipulated in order to be forced to learn, and it's doing this by agitating our design. Okay. I know that sounds a little crude, but that's exactly what's happening here. And the sooner you realize it, the better it's going to get for you and all the people that are being manipulated right now. All right. So the second way we prove this to you is actually through what we call alignments. Now, all of the frequencies are connected to the quadrants of our body. All right. But sometimes there'll be two frequencies within a quadrant that are testing the same relationship or they're testing to see if our routines are balanced. So these blue lines, that's testing relationships. That's testing how we get along with teammates. These purple lines, these are testing how balanced our individual routines are at each one of those levels that we discussed. Now, the first alignment we're going to talk about is this ME, okay? That's this guy right here. It's an hour and a half alignment. So when the time bar is going through this, this is actually going to be testing the upper quadrants of the body. Now, in first person or on the space side, these have to do with the maturing members of the team. Now, I'm going to simplify this for you. It doesn't matter if they're older members, younger members, if the members are masculine or if the members are feminine. You need to learn how to master relationship with all of them. You have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to coordinate with them. You have to help them work through their stress. And you have to be able to talk to them about their routines and balancing their routines and balancing with you. You got to work together. That's what we are. We're an interconnected team that's trying to complete the objective, which is to make this a better experience for all our future teammates, which are just our family members, right? We're all part of the same family. It's that simple. Now, if your defensive design is getting in the way of you getting along with the older members of the team, the more destructive you are, the more you're avoiding your responsibilities, and the more unbalanced your choices are, the more you're going to feel it in these upper quadrants during this amplified moment in time. That's just how that works. All right, now we're going to talk about the ME up here. This is the capital M, little e, okay? This is testing again relationships of our team. Now, when it's on the lower half of the body, this has to do with the younger members. I'm not going to repeat it all. You gotta you gotta communicate, you gotta coordinate, you gotta alleviate stress, and you gotta do objective together. The more unbalanced you are, the more you hurt down here, the better you're doing with those teammates, the better off you are. That simple. Next one we're talking about is the ME, but on the time side. Time alignments have to do with routines, and this red color down here, so it's on the bottom, this has to do with our smaller routines. So our family routine and our individual routine. Okay. Now, the family and individual level, if you're putting in time for yourself and your family, it better help all the other families and all the other individuals just as much as it helps you. Now, that's not how we've been doing things. Most of our routines at the smaller level are very unbalanced. We do everything for our family and our individual selves, and we create all this separation and all this difference in the way we experience because we think the more we have, the better we experience. But the problem is this, that's what's actually causing the distortion, and that's what's causing this imbalance. So there are going to be a lot of people that are going to be experiencing some trouble in this lower quadrant during this alignment. So if you get pain in this right lower quadrant, or you notice things just aren't feeling right or things aren't working right, like your digestion, for example, then you can be certain that's just biofeedback. It's just your body saying, hey, when you're out of frequency, I can't function properly, and you're going to know about it. That's how your body talks to you and lets you know, hey, you better do something different. All right, so the last one we got to talk about here is the strongest one. It's this MP. This is a 6 hour alignment. And this is going to test how we get along with older members of the team. Now, you're starting to understand here how these just keep repeating. And sometimes they're longer, sometimes they're shorter when they do this. If you feel a hit here, don't be surprised if you've got headaches or if you have visual changes, upper respiratory problems. Anything in these upper quadrants is fair game. And if it hurts or if it doesn't feel well, which again, a lot of people are going to experience this because we've been struggling in relationship, now you know darn well what it means. All right, so that's enough with the alignments. This is a pretty strong day in alignments, and expect to have confirmation, meaning we're going to be able to tell you where you hurt before you hurt. And when we do that, now we're telling you why. It's because your choices are unbalanced and you just didn't know this because you were designed to make mistakes. We all are. Let it go. Forgive yourself. Now that we know what this is, we move forward. All right, let's finish up here. So the testing sequence is how many frequencies are going to test each quadrant in your body in the next 24 hours. And just like up here, the time bar progresses through this. And the number four is kind of significant here as well. If there are more than four frequencies in a quadrant, that's a pretty heavy test load. If there's less than four, not as heavy. Now you can see we're pretty much at that four level, upper left, four level, upper right. We're a little above the four level on the lower left, and we're right at that four level on the lower right. So lower left is maybe a little bit more, and otherwise we're pretty equal testing today. Meaning you better be doing good in all your relationships, and you better be balancing your routines because even if it's not an alignment happening, this is all we're getting tested on. If you want to slow aging, if you want to stop disease, commit to this, commit to this. These two charts just show you where the strongest frequencies are. There are a ton of frequencies that are going to test us. These are the 10 strongest. And I like to just see how they're lined up on the body. So you see like 1, 2, 3, we've got 4 on the right side, which means we have 6 on the left side. And what that means is expect your left side to feel a little bit more and the left lower part of your body to feel a little bit more. And lo and behold, when we look at the testing sequence, this is saying the same thing. Left lower quadrant is going to be a little bit more difficult in this next series. All right, so let's end this out. As always, we list the rest of the electromagnetics for the rest of this year. Okay, this is 2024's electromagnetics, and you can go to the end of the year and you can see when this pattern is going to elevate, when this pattern is going to fall, and this is when social tension is going to rise and when social tension is going to fall. This is how we make the predictions, and now you know them before they happen. But mostly, we're showing this to the individual because we want you to be prepared. If you can stop this pattern from manipulating you and the people that you're around, what you can do is you can start to eliminate the stress at the smaller level. Now, Health Reconnected can get a ton of people. So if we can get regions and nations of people doing this, we can start to change everything. And that's what we're up to here. But before we can change everything, we got to have some people willing to lead some change in their own lives. And we're empowering you to do that. And you've got nothing but benefit to do this. All right. Appreciate your time. We'll see you in the next forecast.